First of all, I just want to thank the Regional Independents for the opportunity to discuss the importance of the Housing Aid for Older People grant, the Mobility Aids grant and the Housing Adaptation grant for people with disability. The Social Democrats fully support the motion. Last week, the Irish Examiner reported on a case of a family with a child with spina bifida who had to fundraise €50,000 and get a credit union loan of €30,000 to pay for essential renovations to their home despite getting the Housing Adaptation grant scheme. This case, highlighted by the Jack and Jill Foundation, illustrates the many issues with the Adaptation grant. Crucially, they highlight how the scheme does not meet the needs of families and children with significant disabilities. The income threshold is very low, which leaves many middle-income families with little or no support. Also, they're calling for the application process and the granting of funds to be made much easier and accessible for parent carers. This case and the insights from the Jack and Jill Foundation are no isolated cases. In theory, the Housing Aid for Older People and the Housing Adaptation grant are exactly the type of supports needed to help people live in their own homes. However, in practice, the schemes need more funding, the grants are inadequate for the works required, the system is too bureaucratic, and there are major delays for local authority housing. Speaking at the Disability Matters Committee, Disabled Women Ireland outlined the considerable issues with the current adaptation grant, from what they described as the horrific and restrictive application process, to the fact that the grants are generally drawn down after the capital outlay, meaning, and I quote, that if people fulfil the criteria, the system disadvantages the people who need it the most and do not have any money or savings to pay upfront for the accessibility that they need. If a person does qualify, he or she is limited by what he or she can afford right that minute, and the person is not able to get what is needed because of the drawdown system afterwards. End quote. The current system, in effect, excludes and disempowers disabled people and others. It needs reform. When someone qualifies, that money should be made available up front. Alone, who support over 24,000 older people, have pointed out that the current annual funding of the Adaptation grant would be required for just assisting older people. They also point out that while the grant covers 95% of the work, many elderly people on low incomes find it extremely difficult to even pay the 5% with the extensive work that is required. Representatives of the Irish Thalidomide Association have highlighted how the people who need the support can often feel disregarded and voiceless in the system. Applications and decisions need to respect lived experience and recognise that disabled people and others are the experts in what they require. There are also issues that assessments are made on a household basis and do not consider individuals' autonomy. The Disability Committee recommended that a mechanism must be included under the Housing Adaptation grant process whereby individuals choosing to live with families can access the grant as an individual without the rest of the household income being included as part of the means test. Minister, this will support individuals to live independent lives in housing that is appropriate to their needs. A lack of access to adaptation grants also contributes to disabled people being unable to access appropriate housing. People must wait lengthy periods and either live in unsuitable accommodation, remain in a hospital or go into a nursing home while waiting for housing adaptation. Any measure that can help disabled people needs to be accelerated. The Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission have noted that people with disabilities are over 1.6 times more likely to live in poor conditions, and they are overrepresented in the homeless population, with more than 1 in 4 homeless people being disabled. The Ombudsman also highlighted that his office had received complaints about access to housing adaptation grants available from local authorities, and that the lack of proper support is contributing to keeping people in congregated settings, especially the large number of individuals under 65 years old who are still in nursing homes because the state is not providing suitable housing. This area also highlights the importance of universal design. The Disability Matters Committee strongly advocates that the principles of universal design is vital to meaningfully remove barriers and achieve inclusion. This approach ensures that products, services and environments are made accessible from their planning stage. When conducted in conjunction with disabled people and others affected, homes and buildings can be future-proofed with designs to meet current and potential needs. Current building regulations do not require full accessibility. This is not only exclusion, it is short-sighted. The same accessible feature for mobility aids also helps young families with buggies. All new housing should be designed with adaptability in mind. These are proactive measures that can be taken now to alleviate the problems individuals are experiencing today. Ultimately, these grants relate to the additional cost of having a disability in Ireland. The Department of Social Protection's own Cost of Disability in Ireland report revealed that people with disabilities face extra costs of up to $12,300. And we all know that in many cases it's far, far more than that. That's annually on transport, fuel, equipment, aids, medical expenses, and much, much more. Unless these and other supports adequately recognise these costs, inequalities will continue and even increase. As a result, Ireland has one of the highest rates of poverty and social exclusion for disabled people in all of the EU. Accessible homes will keep people in their communities and enable others to move to independent living. Better mobility aid grants can help people leave the house, socialise and gain employment. These schemes are some of the most basic supports necessary to enable many different groups to live with dignity and to participate in society. It is their right. The government must face up to its responsibility. This issue cuts across all of society, from older people to families with children with disabilities, to disabled people living independently, to thalidomide survivors. In principle, it is exactly the type of support individuals and families need to facilitate independent living and keeping people in their homes. However, in practice, the system is complex, it is insufficient, and it is exclusionary. Older people, people with disabilities, children with complex needs all have the right to appropriate supports. The schemes have to be found properly. There needs to be sufficient discretion to allow people to make the best choices for themselves and their families, and the application process needs to be radically overhauled, and applications need to be processed so much quicker. Thank you, Caroline.